My name's Barb Boyes. I'm from Oshawa, Ontario. Grew up in Pickering, actually. I grew up on a farm in Pickering and lived in Pickering and Ajax most of my life, and certainly while I was playing lacrosse, and have since moved to Oshawa and lived there. By the time I started, we'd moved off of the farm and not too far away. But during my high school years, I started playing lacrosse and was living in Ajax at that time. Definitely there was a key moment. I remember very, very vividly, and I was probably 16 years of age, and I had seen this article in the local paper about Whitby girls hockey. And I always played hockey in the ponds with my brother, and I come from a real hockey kind of oriented family. And I saw this article and I thought, oh, Mom and Dad aren't going to let me play, because I had done the research, and it was on Sundays at 12 noon, and we went to church every Sunday. And so I tried to pick the best moment possible to approach them about it, and absolutely not. That conflicts with church, and so on and so forth. And I begged, I literally was begging for days on end, I guess, kind of thing. And somewhere they must have had a conversation and relented. And hence I started playing girls hockey at 16 years of age. And in the summertime, at that time, I played softball. And once I started playing hockey, I met some, more friends, and they were lacrosse players, and convinced me to give lacrosse a try. And that team was Gerard Road. We played in the outdoor box in Whitby off of Gerard Road. And that was the beginning of lacrosse for me. 2 years of box lacrosse, and then I moved into field lacrosse. I went through university as a physical education major, and then went into teaching and had a 30-year teaching career. I look back on that, and not one day did it seem like a job to me. It was certainly a career that I loved every day of it. Just working and interacting with people, and particularly kids, and hopefully having a positive impact on, just on their lives, and especially in terms of their athleticism and recreation and fitness and that sort of thing. Some of the positions that I have held over the years in terms of volunteering in the sport. I guess probably where it all started for me in terms of volunteer was sort of a mixture between coaching Team Ontario. When I stopped playing, I was actually a player coach for a couple of years, and went on to coach Team Ontario for 12 years. And the other thing that I did, it was kind of coinciding at the time, because I started my teaching career, was I was very interested in getting lacrosse into the high schools. That was my sport, the one that I knew the most about. And I thought, it's time that we get lacrosse into the high school. So I was very instrumental in starting lacrosse as a sanctioned sport in the L.O.S.A area, L.O.S.A High School, Durham region. And went on, and it's still, now it's a very strong league, as you know, across the province in a number of different areas in the high school program. Then I also was involved with the OUA, the Ontario Women's Field Lacrosse League, on the board of directors for them. I've had 2 different stints there. I was the discipline chair for a few years, and then most recently the director of development. I'm just finishing a 4-year term with the OWL as director of development. The other thing that I've done is, and this is probably the one that's lasted the longest, I was the founder of the Oshawa Lady Blue Knights in 2000, and we've grown that program from 45 girls in 2000 to close to 500 girls today. So, and I've been the executive director from the get-go for that. When you think about memories, there's tons of them. If you try and think maybe of one that really stands out, there's no question making Team Canada was big for me. And that started with a letter that I got from one of the Gilkinson brothers back in 1980 to come and try out for Team Ontario. When I got that, and that was the end of my box career, 2 years, and then I got that letter in 1980 and moved into the field program. And when I got that letter, wow, that was huge. And I thought, I'm doing whatever it takes to make that Team Ontario. And then 2 years later, we were having tryouts for the 82 team to represent Team Canada, the first World Cup in Nottingham, England. And same thing, when I got the letter that I had made that team, that was a thrill for me. And playing in that World Cup, the first ever Women's World Cup, I remember that very vividly at the cricket stadium in England, and just how big of an event it was at that time, and how special we all felt, and we really felt that we were a pretty solid team, and contrary to what others thought, and we went in there and ended up in third place and upset England. That was the big upset win, and certainly can remember that. In coaching, there's different kinds of memories, I think, in coaching, and a lot of it has to do with surrounding players you've coached over the years, and what they've done and gone on to do. Some players are just easier to coach than others, and those kind of kids, they're just easy to coach, and there's lots of good qualities about them. And so over the years, there's so many kids like that that I've come into contact with. In terms of, wins or whatever, because I'm a very competitive person. I like to win. There's no question about that. The time that when I was coaching Team Ontario and we won, finally knocked off BC after years and years and years of finishing second or third at Nationals. We finally beat BC and knocked them off, and that was definitely an exciting time and a memorable moment. And I guess the other one in coaching would be my high school team at Donald Wilson. Again, we were knocking on the door, I don't know how many years, to Sinclair, and we knocked off Sinclair, and then the next challenge was to win Trillium Cup, and again we were coming in second or third at Trillium Cup, and when we finally beat the Notre Dame out of St. Catharines in overtime, that was a pretty exciting moment. As an administrator, definitely the memories with our Blue Knight program, as I said, we've been going 20 years now. So again, there's so many memories throughout our Blue Knight program. The one that would have to stand out for sure is when we first won at the U15 level. We'd only, in 2003, we just put a rep team in the program, and won, and then a year later our U19 team won. And I think, one of my sort of beliefs was that when we went into the rep league, we would go in strong and not go in, with a very beginnerish sort of house league program. And so I was very proud of that we went in and won, and so that's certainly very memorable. This is a favorite picture of mine, one of my favorite pictures. It came from the team. It was our under-19 team that were competing just in their second year, actually, in the rep league, our Lady Blue Knight team. And we ended up playing the Ontario Summer Games, and the provincial championships were all at the same. They were they went together, basically. Anyway, so when we were there, we were competing hard, and our goal was to win the whole event. And again, took a few teams by surprise. And we got to the gold medal game, and in a very, very close game against Orangeville, we beat them, and I guess you could say upset them, and went on and won the gold medal. One of the neat things about this picture, you'll see the loonie there in the front of it, and it was around the time Lake Placid, the hockey team at Lake Placid in the Olympics, had buried a loonie under center ice for good luck, and it had worked for them. So myself and another parent decided that maybe we should do that on the field, and whether it brought us luck or not, I don't know, but that loonie was buried at center field. The girls played the game, unknowing to them that the loonie was there, and after the game was over and the victory celebration, we went and unburied the loonie with everybody around, and then had another little celebration when we unburied the loonie. So that was kind of a fun little thing that went along with that victory. One of the most interesting rules, I guess, that or parts of the game it's so strange, and it was strange then, and it's strange today when you think about it. But the game had no boundaries. So in other words, there were no sidelines, there were no end lines. If the ball sort of rolled off the field of play and there was nobody in the vicinity of where the ball was, you could just pick it up and keep going. And I mean, I remember watching or playing and, you know, running up a hill and back onto the field, and the whistle would never go because there just were no concrete boundaries that if the ball or your foot went over the line, the whistle would go. So it was very interesting sometimes. I mean, sometimes it got so out of hand that you might see somebody run behind a lawn chair and back onto the field. So the boundaries were definitely very loose at times. The other one that would seem very foreign nowadays, every field you go to, everything's a plastic stick. And back when I played with a wood stick, and most people played with a wood stick. Even when plastic came out, I really never did use a plastic stick. I always felt that the wood stick was a lot more solid and stronger. I was a defender, so I wanted something very solid and very strong when I was making my stick checks on my opponent. So I stuck with the wood stick, even though there were a lot of advocates to switch over to plastic, but I never did. I was always a big believer for a long, long time in the wood stick. Yeah, it's definitely changed for sure. There's definitely hard boundaries now. That's one of the changes, but there's been a lot of change. It is a very, very fast-paced game now. And it's fun to watch how fast-paced it is and how quickly the ball is moved and how athletic the girls are and fast and big and strong. Where do I see it going? You know, I've thought about that, and obviously, you know, with the movement to get it into the Olympics, there will be change. The people that have that say in whether it goes to the Olympics or not are going to have a big impact on what the game looks like. They want it to look, you know, something that is going to be very sellable to fans, and the fast-paced part of it will definitely be a part of it. Maybe smaller fields, maybe less players on the field, lots of goals being scored, but it remains to be seen. We've been really fortunate over the years, starting with a good foundation in our program and talking about opportunity and what opportunities are out there. And certainly one of the things that we made people aware of very early, that there are scholarship opportunities to combine getting your education and playing lacrosse at the same time, and getting part of it or a good significant part of it paid for. And we had a lot of people and families and girls jump on board with that idea of following scholarship, the scholarship route. And currently we've got 58 girls that have either been on scholarship or have recently committed and are planning to go in the next year or so. We've had All-Americans both at Division I and II, both athletic All-Americans and academic All-Americans. Some wonderful girls that have gone on and done fabulous things. And I think that's one of the things I'm very proud of as well, is when you look back at the girls that have gone on, not just scholarships in the U.S., but have gone on to Canadian universities as well, significant numbers of them have gone on to fabulous careers in whether it's teaching, whether it's business, engineering, coaching in the NCAA. You know, they're girls that become young women and then adults and have gone on to some really, really good careers and putting back into the game. You know, I think part of the coaching piece of it, when I wasn't young when I got involved like kids are today when they're 5 or 6 or 7 and they start playing lacrosse or any sport for that matter. As I said earlier, I didn't start playing hockey, organized hockey, until I was 16, and then hence lacrosse a year later or so, around 17 years of age. So, you know, by the time I finished my playing career, I was somewhere around 30, and I thought, you know, we don't have a coach. Somebody needs to coach this group. So I took it on as a player coach for a couple of years, and then thought, you know what, I think it's time to maybe just focus on coaching alone. And I think initially what it was a challenge. One of the challenge, the competitive part of it, the same as that, what attracted me to as a player, the competing and the compete level and all of that, and trying to get to be the best that I could be as an athlete. I thought, you know what, the same thing's holding true for me as a coach. Now it's my turn to try and get these athletes to be the best they can be and understand what it is to get there, putting the work ethic in and making sacrifices and those kinds of things. So I like the challenge of it. And the other piece of it is there's no question, and people that don't do it just can't relate to this because it is such a time commitment, but it's such a rewarding experience. These are a couple of programs from the World Cup when I was coaching Team Canada. Let's start with the first one, 89. I was the assistant coach with Dave Evans, who is from BC, and coaching Team Canada. And the World Cup was in Perth, Australia, which was a very, very memorable trip to even get there because the airlines had gone on strike. We didn't realize that until we had our stopover in Hawaii and then had to find a way to get to Perth from there. Which we did eventually, but was quite the trip. And anyway, we finished 4th at the World Cup in Australia, and probably was the first time for me that, other than in '82 when I went to England for World Cup, first time that I'd really traveled anywhere. And Australia was just absolutely beautiful, and it was a fantastic World Cup. And then in '93, I was head coach this time of the Canadian team. I was coaching that team from '90 to '93. And, you know, I really look back on that time as a big turning point where we were really asking a lot more of the players in terms of commitment and really treating them like national team players and what the expectations of them were. And we ended up finishing 4th that year at the World Cup in Scotland. I don't know if we were the cocky Canadians or what, but we always believed that we were better than what they had predicted us to be. We had our eyes open. I will tell you this, I'll back up a bit, because when our very first event that we went as Team Ontario, before Team Canada was even chosen, I recall very vividly a bunch of us as box players heading down to the States to play in a field tournament with this Team Ontario, and scoring the first goal, and the girl that scored the first goal with her arms raised, running through the crease, and the referee waving the goal off because you can't go through the crease, and what we didn't know. We hardly knew the rules. And we seriously went into that event thinking we were going to walk over teams. And so after we had that 1-0 lead wiped out very quickly, I can't remember the score, but we probably got beat by a good 20-something goals. So that was a real eye-opener for us, that we weren't as good as what we really thought we were. So that kind of lends, though, to our mentality and the belief in ourselves as athletes that you know, we were top-level athletes. We had just made Team Canada, and we were going over there to compete. And, you know, some of those teams over there, we might not have been as good as, but our work ethic was way better. And our drive and our passion and that kind of thing. And we got a bit of a name for that over there, that we were very aggressive. And, but in the end, like I said, we upset England, they were one of the favorites to win the event. And I remember the newspaper articles in their papers the next day and how we had shocked England, and England actually didn't fare too well after that. So yeah, we believed in ourselves right from the get-go, I'd say. We beat Scotland in the bronze, well, I say bronze medal game very loosely because, you know, we went into that game with our goal, obviously, at that point, because that's where we had lined up, and to win that bronze medal. And we're ecstatic, of course, when we beat Scotland, and we had to make a comeback. We were down in that game, and we fought back, so it was a close game and a hard-fought game, and we pulled out the win, and ecstatic that we had won the bronze medal. And when we got to the closing ceremonies, they only gave out gold and silver medals. And it's like, where's the bronze medal? Oh, we don't give out bronze medals. We only give out gold and silver medals. Like, how ridiculous is this? Everywhere in the world you think you get a gold, silver, bronze. So we didn't get a bronze medal. We came home empty-handed. And although everybody talked about our bronze medal, we never really had one. And then years later, the International Federation rectified it, and we eventually did get our bronze medals. This is the infamous bronze medal. In around 1994, we finally got our bronze medals from that 1982 upset win over Scotland for the bronze. You know, all of them caught me by surprise, I guess, when someone informed me or you know, when I was getting the award. I remember very distinctly them announcing the Lacrosse Hall of Fame induction at one of our national championships. And I was standing there with my team. I had no idea what they were talking about, and all of a sudden they started to talk about the Hall of Fame and mention my name. I thought, wow. And so it was a pretty neat thing because the players didn't know either, and so it was a nice little celebration on the field. And certainly very humbling to be considered considered in that group. And it was a very special night, along with a number of others at the actual induction. And then the same thing for the Oshawa Sports Hall of Fame. Again, very humbling to be considered in a group of local Oshawa people. Both times I went in as a builder, so my contribution in terms of coaching and administration, people saw as fitting that and deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. And again, very humbling because you don't think of things that you're doing. You don't think of it's going to end. You're going to end up in the Hall of Fame because of it. You do it because you enjoy it and you love it and that kind of thing. The Roots of the Game. That one's a really neat trophy because it's and it talks about grassroots development and goes back to like the Blue Knights when I started with 45 girls and basically 2 other people helping me kind of thing, and I recruited a few of my high school students to coach the girls. But the trophy is a really neat trophy because it's made out of I think oak, which was and it came from the Pattersons. Who made the Patterson lacrosse sticks, and it's a really neat trophy made out of wood, and it's actually roots coming out of the base of the trophy. So that's kind of a neat, it was kind of a neat award, and as I said, it was given out sort of for the beginning and putting back into the game and developing it. Carol coached me at national team level for a few years, so and Carol and Wes, they both, when Carol was coaching, they virtually took in the team as part of their family. I don't know how many times we were at their house for different functions and dinners and things like that. And Wes, he would so proudly share his stories. That barn that he built the sticks in, if anybody saw his factory, it was literally a barn with wood and sawdust and wood shavings from the sticks everywhere. And he pumped out, just hundreds and thousands of wooden sticks over the years. And you'd sit and you could watch him string the sticks, and he was just expertly stringing sticks and so on and so forth. And I used a Patterson stick for many years. In fact, at 1982 World Cup, I would have used a Patterson stick. And that Patterson stick's sitting in the Oshawa Sports Hall of Fame today. Proudly, I have it proudly displaying there. So they just were a really neat pair that embraced lacrosse and probably had a significant impact on my passion for the game and how it developed over the years. 20 years I've been administratively involved or executive director as the Lady Blue Knights, and the climate of the game, and not the game itself, but the climate of the culture, I guess. When I look back to those first few years when we had 45 players and then 60 players and then 90 players or whatever it was involved, everybody, parents, the kids that were playing, just happy to be there. No one, questioned this or that, or everybody just trusted what you were doing, trusted the coaches that they knew what they were doing. And you know, you watch over the years, and now everybody's playing lacrosse in how many different communities, and it's very competitive, and hence you go to the field, and you know, now you've got a culture that starts to where you've got parents second guessing this or kids second guessing that. And just recently I actually had this I guess conversation through email with our Blue Knight group that this isn't acceptable, and you know, we need to get back to treating our volunteers properly. And I think that's a really important thing in any sport, that we create a culture for young athletes that is safe, and one that they can develop a passion for sport, whether it's lacrosse or anything, versus having a culture that may bring some negativity. So I really believe the positive aspect is really important, and we keep that in our game.